Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you very much for joining us in tonight's edition of Viewpoint on DBS Television. The Ministry of Finance, headed by Minister Louis-Paul Mutaze, has postponed by 15 days the deadline for tax payment for the first quarter of 2021. Initially set for the 5th of each month, the deadline for tax declaration and payment is set for January 31, February 28, March 31, 2021 in the cities of Douala, Yaoundé, Bamenda, and Limbe, and this falls within the framework of some major reforms by the main thing. That said, in tonight's edition, we'll be trying to find out how beneficial this could be to taxpayers, or looking at different ways in which these taxpayers could pay their dues. To discuss about this topic, we are once more honored to have an entrepreneur with us, Apien Ochavi. It is not the first time that he is joining us to discuss issues related to the economy. Good evening to you, Apien Ochavi, and thank you very much for joining us.
Good evening to you, Vanessa, and good evening to everyone watching from home. It's a pleasure for me to be with you this evening, and I hope that within the next, let's say, 28 minutes, we will be able to understand how beneficial this decision is to all of us doing business out there.
Doing business out there. Apparently, it is our very first edition for this year.
Yes, it is.
You're welcome. Manga Benashus, good evening and welcome.
Good evening, Vanessa. Good evening to our viewers. And like you rightly said, this is the first time we are receiving Mr. EP in Viewpoint. And we believe that the year 2021 will be a year with a different perhaps the running of the program, Vanessa.
Maybe reducing these taxes will help taxpayers.
That is why
it's something good for.
That's why I say perhaps a running of the program.
Perhaps in a running up a program. Let us take the first part of the show. If you are just joining us, you're watching Viewpoint on DBS Television from Monday to Friday at 6:30 p.m. as well as you can equally tune live on Facebook to watch us. Can the Minfi decision to postpone the deadline for the first-time payment of tax for 2021 be seen as aid to taxpayers? Not your point of view, yes or no?
Yes, to an extent. It can be seen as aid to taxpayers. To a greater extent, yes.
To a greater extent, yes. Manga Financials?
No, Vanessa.
No. And can electronic payment systems of tax be considered as more secure for government funds? Manga Financials?
Yes, Vanessa.
Yes. Notch?
Yes.
Yes. Let us have the debate. The Ministry of Finance postponing tax payment by 15 days rather compared to the deadline. And in this sector, we are trying to find out, is that beneficial to taxpayers, or is it going to be seen as an aid to taxpayers? Not you think that to a greater extent, this will help taxpayers. So how beneficial is it going to be to them?
It's important that we understand. We all know what taxes involve, and in this case, we're talking about business owners. We're talking about company owners. We're talking about business owners. We're talking about people who have a long list of things to review before coming out, before declaring in full what they own, what they are benefiting, what they are making in terms of income, and before the true value of their properties, of their business is being identified. And if we look at all of this, we understand that it needs time. The first declaration was supposed to be done by the 15th of the month, if I'm correct. And now the extension is done right up to the 30th of the month of January, the 28th the month of February, 31st month of March, and then it will extend, I think, from the 1st of April to other divisions and then subdivisions by July. It's important to understand that taxes, like I said at the beginning, needs a whole analysis No, there is a whole lot of accounts to be done by a company before determining how much will be paid, how much is our income. A company cannot know how much is made in profit if it's not analyzed how much has come in so far or how much will go out. If they've not analyzed what is our projected financial budget for, let's say, the next 6 months, for, let's say, the next 1 year. A company cannot talk about its finance if it has not been able to assess all of this. Now, the question I want to ask is, Mr. Venasio said no, and this is a debate. I want to ask him, how can you do all of that in 15 days? I think the minister thought about this. I think all of this was taken into consideration. Now, from the 30th of December, the decree about electronic payment was made. I think that was when it was made, if I'm not wrong.
Yes, from the 30th.
From the 30th of December.
Last year.
Now, there is a system. It's a new system. From the 30th of December to the 15th of January, it's 15 days. Do you think that it's sufficient enough for, first, the government to adapt to this new system? Because the Ministry of Finance, in that same decree, I'm sure promised to assist some people when it comes to realizing the system of payments. Manual receipts and manual payments are no longer permitted. No, except in exceptional situations. And situations like this will need a special authorization. Now, from when the decree was made on the 30th of December last year, 2020, to the 15th of January 2021, it's exactly 16 days. Is that time enough for the system to be ready? Is that time enough for people to get used to understand what it will involve, to make full payment, to make full declaration, to be able to understand what is their tax situation and how the system is going to work? Is that time sufficient enough? I tell you, no. Is that time enough for people to prepare themselves, to look at, to do full accounts of their activities, to do full accounts of their financial projections for the coming year, to be able to assess their assets and everything and declare in full? I think about 4 weeks ago, last year, on this same platform, we were talking about business owners declaring in full the value of their businesses, the profits that they are making, how much they are spending, how much they are making, how much liabilities and everything that is being handled at the level of the company. Is 15 days enough to handle all of this? If you have an accountant here, or if an accountant is watching us from home, he will tell us that it's not enough. So postponing this to 30 days, I think it's a reasonable decision. It gives taxpayers also the possibility to manage their activities, prepare themselves to be able to do full declaration, and also prepare the budget.
And equally understand how the system...
Exactly. Understand how the system works. Puts the government also in a position where they could easily help, assist us taxpayers. And then I think in that light, it will be easy now for taxes to be paid and declared in full by the end of the month, like it has been declared. And also look at the timing. The 15th is very odd, in quotes, if I could put it that way. How do I say it's odd? Salaried workers have the habit of saying that from the 15th to the 25th of the month or the 24th, what they have is basically what to manage. They wasted all their money. But what they don't understand is sometimes we feel that it doesn't affect business people, it affects. Imagine that I'm a salesman, and who buys from me? The population. The people. Who are these people? These people are still people who are part of the salaried workers. So if they don't have money to buy from me, how do I earn income? How do I prepare for my taxes? The 15th, the timing, the period, it's very unrealistic. But when you look at the 30th, I think all of this taken into consideration, it's an aid, it's a big support in order for people to, first of all, understand the system, in order for people to prepare themselves financially, in order for people to do their own personal accounts such that full declaration is done and things like fraud, which we spoke about here a few weeks ago, can be avoided. I think it's in that light that I say yes, it's a good decision.
It's a good decision. It's an aid to taxpayers. Thank you very much. If you're not Chavi, Manga Venasio, is you rather see that it's not going to help taxpayers in any way?
Yes, Vanessa, I don't see it as, that's the way I look at it from my own point of view, that it is not, an assistance, call it, for taxpayers. Remember, we are talking about a special measure that has been implemented, is going operational this year, And it is not a new law to say taxpayers used to pay their taxes in the first,
first quarter.
Within the first 5 days of the quarter. That is in January, February, March. The first quarter they will pay it around the first 5 days. That is how they have been paying. They know of it. This is not, this is not a new kind of tax or new kind of measure that is being introduced. It is simply being postponed. And when you postpone, you give the impression to those who have been, who have set the rhythm of the function of their enterprise, you are disrupting that rhythm, because they already knew, they knew that the planning of the expenditure in their company within the first 5 days of the month, you have to settle your taxes. Now you are pushing it again right up to the end of the month. Other expenditures are there to handle. It means taxpayers will have to reshuffle, the rhythm in which their company functions. Instead of handling your taxes, paying them at the beginning of the month, like the new law stipulates, the month of January, February, and March, instead of paying them at the beginning of the month, because we say beginning of the month, because they're around the 15th, that they used to pay. Now they have pushed it to the end of the month. Remember, at the end of the month, these very companies are struggling with paying taxes, paying salaries for their workers. You are now making work heavier for them. Whereas payment within the first 2 weeks of the month, they settle their taxes and then plan for salaries so that by the end of the month, they could now handle salary issues.
Manga Venatius, it is important for us to reiterate that this will no longer be done manually, but it will be done through the electronic means.
Vanessa, it doesn't cancel the fact that, because money is not necessarily physical cash. Those who settle the salaries of their company, the money may still be in the bank. It's just enough for you to do the transaction. Whether you are paying it physically, whether you are paying it electronically, it means money is going out. The time you would have been concentrating now on treating the salary and paying salary, you are now paying, because it has not disrupted or it has not changed the pay period. Salaries will still be paid at the end of the month. What I mean here is you have instead added stress on these employees or on these employers, because
these taxpayers,
taxpayers, of course, taxpayers, because most of them, they have workers. And most salaries, most workers are being paid at the end of the month. Now they will have to be working on settling these taxes, paying the workers. In which case, because I wanted to say something here.
All right.
It is not as if these new taxes that are being introduced are for new companies that are coming up. No, we cannot say that we would give them time to work on their capital. We will give them time to work on their income. No. Each company, you already know that your capital is 10 million. And from this 10 million, the taxes are supposed to be, maybe 10% of that. I don't know how much that will be. Now, 10% of that 10 million would be this. Pushing it again at the end of the month would instead, to me, make things complicated, because they already knew that even it is January, it is February, it is March. At the beginning of the month, you already know that from this 10 million, 10% of that amount is supposed to go to the taxes. You knew it even from the first day of the month. Right up to the 15th, you already know. You know the trend within which your business has been functioning. And remember, taxes are paid on the 15th, not because you have sold right up to that point. Or paying on the 15th means from the 16th, you will no more pay. You pay for the whole month. So you have already projected on the income. That is why you calculate and you pay. When you postpone the payment, to me, I prefer that let me pay now and be free and then know how much I handle. Not getting in. If at the end of the month, you discover that you are operating on a deficit and you may end up not even paying the taxes, it instead pushes you into conflict with the government, into conflict with tax, in fact, it's government, rather than that you would have paid on the 15th and then start working on other projects. I think that we are making work instead difficult for employers or taxpayers than helping them out.
APA.
Yeah, I was very happy when Mr. Venatius used the statement, with me, I would prefer that I pay now and be free. But Mr. Venatius, it's not about what you prefer. It's about what is due, what is right. The question is, in every organization, in every company, in every business, there is a cash flow period. The question is, what is the general, what is the most feasible cash flow period? What is that period that money comes in more and money goes out more? That is the question. How many contracts are being renewed on the 10th, on the 12th, on the 11th, 13, 14, 15, 18, 19 of a month? Very few, not up to 10%. Most of them are being renewed by the end of the month. Why? Because this is a period where money comes in more and money goes out more. You cannot assess your profit and your loss by the 15th of a month. What you're indirectly saying is companies should assess their profit and loss on the 30th, take the money, put it beside, wait for the 15th, pay for the tax. The risk of using this money is very high.
It's very high.
I'll give you the second example. Without making any advertisement, if you dial *126#, it's a code for mobile money. You have 7 options: loan, buying credit, sending money, paying bills, and so on. How long did it take you, Mr. Venatius, to understand these 7 operations? Maybe if we were to question you personally, there are some of them you don't even know how it works now.
Of course.
How long has mobile money been existing? And you expect that from the 30th of the month of 2020, December, to the 15th of the month of January, taxpayers should understand this new system.
That is a point. That is a point, Mr.
Is
IPA.
it
But the
possible?
point is, the law must begin from somewhere. It is a new strategy. We'll be coming to the second aspect. It is a new strategy that we have to understand that it must begin from somewhere. We're introducing it to solve a problem. The introduction of this new means of payment is not because taxpayers had a problem. It is solving a different problem, and taxpayers now would want to benefit from it, benefiting from it,
they'll have to adapt to it.
They will have to adapt to it. They would have to adapt to it because it is not for their own interest. Remember, it was for the interest of the state.
Sure.
Correct.
That's your point of view.
Sure.
Mange Venatius, thank you very much. Gentlemen, in the second question, can electronic payment systems of tax be considered as more secure for government funds? APA, you think that it would be more secure? So are we having the possibility of not swindling money by some government officials?
I don't know if I'm going to say this point is a little bit scarce, but yes, it's a means of security, because first, a track record will be I don't know what word to use, adequate. The track record of what has been paid,
Of every transaction?
Yes, it will be adequate. If we have papers in an office, when you go to this tax office, you enter, you see books and papers everywhere in this order. Some get missing. There is no trace of. Sometimes if you want to trace, this company has been paying tax for 10 years. They might get into the tax office and they will not see any document showing that that company has been paying tax. But in the system, if this system is secure, it's not like saying that electronic systems cannot be hacked. It's not like saying that electronic systems are 100% secure. But they are 70% secure because we still have these guys out there who are too tough, who can still hack the system. But at least we are sure that the records can, at 70% rate, be accurate. And this is a security for government funds. It means that when the government is collecting 2 million, it's sure that the 2 million will be there.
When the tax official is collecting
2 million, we are sure that it will be there. You know, usually when you come, like we spoke the last time here about declaration, and then if you were to pay 1 million or 2 million for something, and then you say, give me 500,000. He takes 500,000, make a paper and give you the 500,000, enters his pocket. Who traces that? But now, if there is a system where you can, what you have paid can be recorded, what the tax official has received can be recorded, there is no way that the tax official is going to swindle the money, unless he's going to use other means which I cannot mention because it might give some of them the idea. But because there's always a way around.
There's always a way
around everything. But it's going to be more secured for the government.
Like the initial figure being entered in the machine and the initial figure being received.
Exactly.
They are two different things.
Except what is being entered in the machine is different from what is being perceived. But what is being entered in the machine will exactly be because someone can come and say nothing was paid, there is no proof of receipt, and everything. All of that has been done. That is why we mentioned it in the first part. the minister is very clear by that decree that if manual payment has to be done, it should be by a special order.
Authorization.
Yeah, special authorization before manual payment is done. If not, every payment has to be done electronically, and this is a big means of security. The world is getting digitalized, and if we can get everything that we do, including taxes like it's getting in now, into these digital systems, then we'll find ourselves in a system where there will be less embezzlement, and at least we are sure that the government funds will be used.
And companies will have to prove that, no, for about 10 years I've been paying my taxes.
Exactly.
It will no longer be an issue of us quarreling between the government and some of these companies.
Exactly.
Mangavina Schuster, your point of view?
Yes, Vanessa, I said it would be secure, more secure for government, but that does not take away the fact that the question of embezzlement would not be there. Mr. IPO was saying that he does not want to name issues because you may open up their eyes to see what they were not seeing. Mr. IPO, it's not as if they were not seeing, they know it. Because when the machines, because when I read most of that, something on it, it was like the document, the receipt that were before now issued manually will be issued electronically, which means there are possibilities of tracking. There are possibilities of tracking. Who has access to tracking that information? That is where the problem lies. Because the fact that it is a machine who has recorded it, if it were a means, remember I said here that the idea is not to help taxpayers, but to help government secure her funds. But the problem is, from within the government circles itself, other measures need to be taken again to safeguard the funds. One, if the electronic system was open to the public in such a way that you can be able to track your amount or your tax, your tax record from anywhere, there is transparency. In as much as it remains an internal affair of the government within a particular circle, that circle is capable of anything. If it was possible that in any machine you sit even from your phone and you put in your taxpayer number and you would be able to see that it was on this date at this time that you paid this amount into government coffers, it is possible to secure the funds. But as I'm still insisting, who has access to that data is the government. And the government is not the flag, is not the seal, it is not the anthem, it is some mister or madam who is in one office. And in that office, anything can happen. So if we were to talk of securing the funds, then let us make, since we are going digital, let us make the process open to everybody. So that once you pay, you can justify it. Once you pay, you can track it. And if you know, if I can sit here, just give me your number and I put it in my machine and I'm able to say, no, you paid your tax on this, you paid this amount, records can be established. The records will be established from the data that somebody would give, and that body can falsify the record. He can falsify the record. So I think that if we want to talk about securing the funds, the process can make it easier, faster. Payment will be faster. It will, in one way, that's why I said yes, limit embezzlement, since physical cash will no longer exchange hands, since face-to-face transaction will be limited, but then the inner circle, because that's where the inner, fraud takes place, in the higher areas. That is where higher fraud takes place. So I would rather think that if the target, because I said it's not to help taxpayers, if the target is to secure government fund, according to, like you said at the beginning of the program, it falls within the certain number of reforms being carried out by government. One of the reforms, what should be added into that reform was, let us be able to track. When you go now to public service, once you enter your matriculation number, you can see where your documents are. If we do the same thing with tax payment, which means anybody can follow, not only you dealing with, anybody can follow where the level at which, how much you have paid taxes, what amount you have paid taxes. I think it will be there will be some sense of transparency.
All right.
Exactly. The good thing is we are on the same line. We both said yes, and you mentioned one aspect, the aspect of the government, the money being embezzled at the hierarchy. Yes, we agree at that level, but it's going to limit fraud, and it's going to be protection at a smaller level. How at a smaller level? If this is a unified system where a tax official here in Douala is filling in your tax details, and because it's one system, it's a digitalized system. Yaoundé, for example, the Ministry of Finance can log in and see these details because it has already been introduced into the machine. That tax official who is filling in cannot change, cannot falsify the information anymore. At that level, it protects the government's money, because every tax official before now had the possibility of doing anything. But with this system, even if people have to embezzle, it will be at a certain level, at least it limits to an extent already. Now, if apart from the activity of falsifying and then protecting the tax officials, those are the hierarchy. I will agree the idea that you said, and I will take that as a big conclusion. If the system can be open such that everybody, who is the government?
All of us.
All of us. Who pays, who brings in the money? All of us. So it's not an issue that it be the money that some of these people, with all respect to all of them, some of them don't even pay their taxes. Some of them who have the possibility of checking what has been filled into the system and what has not been filled into, some of them don't even pay any tax. But we pay tax every day. We the low-level people.
The common citizens.
The common citizens. So this system, I agree with Mr. Village on that point, this system should be open such that it's simple. You put in your
taxpayer number.
The taxpayer number, and then you can see record of what you've done, the transactions, how much you've paid, when you paid them, the dates, and everything. And if we do this, the transparency will be open, and then at that level, we can be sure that government funds will be more and more secure.
All right, so what could you consider telling taxpayers who are adapting already with the new system coming in force?
Well, what I could tell them is, I know that we are in Cameroon. Some officials will still find a possibility of wanting to collect your money without doing records into the system. We should not agree to that, no matter how low they might claim that they've reduced the amount. We should not agree to that, and then we should find our ways. We should find ways to encourage the idea, to understand the system, and then while waiting, like we've proposed on this on the program, to see if the system could be open to everybody, and then we'll be good to go.
And if it is open, that will lead more to transparency. Mangevena Shoes, one last word.
Thank you. Just to tell our taxpayers that the idea is to secure the money we contribute to the state, and the money, if it goes into the right channel, will help to develop Cameroon and not particular pockets.
We'll have to develop Cameroon and not the individual. Ladies and gentlemen, this brings us to the end of today's edition. Thank you very much for watching, and take the rendezvous for tomorrow. See you, God willing. Stay tuned to DBS Television. Goodbye.